The breakfast rush at Miller's Diner was in full swing when Emma noticed her. Through the maze of occupied tables and chattering customers, a young girl stood near the entrance, her crutches tucked under her arms, her eyes scanning the crowded room with a mixture of hope and resignation. Emma had worked at this diner for 3 years, and she'd learned to read people in those fleeting moments before they found a seat. This girl, no older than 14, wore that particular expression. Emma had come to recognize the look of someone who'd been turned away before. The girl's gaze landed on a booth near the window where a man sat alone, his attention focused on the small boy beside him, who was coloring enthusiastically on a paper placemat. The man looked tired in that specific way only single parents understand. The kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones from loving someone more than yourself. His coffee sat cooling, forgotten, while he pointed at something in his son's drawing, his face softening with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Emma watched as the girl approached their table, her movements careful and practiced. She'd clearly spent years perfecting the balance required to navigate a world not built for her. When she reached the booth, she stood there for a moment, and Emma could see her gathering courage like someone about to jump into cold water. "Can I sit here?" the girl asked, her voice barely audible above the clatter of dishes and conversation. The man looked up, and Emma saw something shift in his expression. Not pity, not discomfort, but recognition. He glanced around the packed diner, then back at the girl, really seeing her. His son, maybe 5 years old, had stopped coloring and was staring up at the girl with the unfiltered curiosity only children possess. "Of course," the man said, and he didn't just say it. He meant it. He immediately slid over to make room, moving his son's crayons and his own coffee to create space. "Please join us. I'm David, and this is my son, Charlie." The girl's eyes widened slightly, as if she'd been braced for rejection and didn't quite know how to process acceptance. "I'm Lily," she said quietly, maneuvering herself into the booth with a grace that came from necessity. Charlie, with the innocent directness of childhood, pointed at her leg. "What happened?" he asked. "Charlie," David said gently, but Lily shook her head. "It's okay," she said, and Emma, refilling water glasses at a nearby table, heard the weight of repetition in those words. "I was born this way. My leg didn't grow right, so the doctors had to take it off when I was little." Charlie considered this with the seriousness of someone contemplating a great mystery. "Does it hurt?" "Sometimes," Lily admitted, "but I'm used to it." "My mom's gone too," Charlie said suddenly, and the non sequitur hung in the air like a confession. "Dad says she's in heaven now. Does it hurt sometimes too?" David's face went pale, his hand frozen halfway to his coffee cup. Emma saw the raw grief flash across his features before he could mask it. But Lily didn't miss a beat. "Yeah," she said softly, leaning toward Charlie with an understanding that belied her age. "It does hurt sometimes. But you get used to that too." They sat in silence for a moment, an unlikely trio bound by their separate losses, and Emma felt something shift in the air around them. It was one of those moments that felt significant, though she couldn't have said why. David cleared his throat, his voice rough when he spoke. "Have you eaten? Please, order whatever you'd like. It's on us." Lily's cheeks flushed. "I can't. I have some money." "I insist," David said, and there was something in his tone that stopped her protest. "Not charity, but fellowship. Charlie and I are celebrating. He drew his first stick-figure family today. That deserves pancakes for everyone, don't you think?" Charlie nodded enthusiastically, and despite herself, Lily smiled. It transformed her face, washing away the guardedness Emma had seen when she first walked in. As Emma approached to take their order, she heard Lily say, "I'm supposed to meet my caseworker here. She's late again." "Caseworker?" David asked gently. "I'm in foster care," Lily explained, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. "Been in 6 homes in 4 years. This last one." She trailed off, and Emma saw her jaw tighten. They decided they couldn't handle a kid with special needs. The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut. David's expression darkened. "That's their loss," he said firmly. "Any family would be lucky to have you." Lily laughed, but it was a hollow sound. You don't know me. I know you're brave enough to ask a stranger if you can sit down, David said. I know you're kind enough to talk to my son like he matters. I know you're honest about things that hurt. That tells me plenty. Emma took their order, pancakes all around, just as David had suggested, and when she walked away, she found herself blinking back unexpected tears. She'd seen a lot in this diner, but genuine kindness still had the power to surprise her. When she returned with their food, the three of them were deep in conversation. Charlie was showing Lily his drawing, and she was complimenting his artistic choices with the seriousness they deserved. David was actually laughing, the sound rusty as if from disuse, and Emma realized it might be the first time. She'd seen him really smile in all the months he'd been coming here. My mom died 8 months ago, David was saying, his hand absently roughing Charlie's hair. Car accident. 1 minute we were a family, the next. He stopped, swallowed hard. The next it was just us. I took a leave from work to be with Charlie, but we're running out of savings. I've been putting off going back because I don't know how to do this alone, how to be enough for him. You're doing great, Lily said with such conviction that David looked up in surprise. I can tell. He's happy. He feels safe with you. That's everything. How would you know? David asked, not unkindly. Because I've been in homes where kids don't feel safe, Lily said simply. I know what the difference looks like. The diner continued to bustle around them, but their booth had become its own small island of understanding. Emma watched as David seemed to come to some kind of decision, his jaw setting with determination. Where will you go? He asked. After your caseworker gets here. Lily shrugged, trying for nonchalance and missing. Another temporary placement, probably. Maybe a group home this time. I'm getting older. Not many people want teenagers. Especially ones with... She gestured at her leg. What if you didn't have to? David said suddenly. Lily looked at him confused. Didn't have to what? What if you stayed with us? The words hung in the air like a held breath. Emma, pretending to wipe down a nearby table, froze. Lily stared at David as if he'd spoken a foreign language. I what? Lily stammered. David leaned forward, his words coming faster now, as if he was afraid he'd lose his nerve. I know this sounds crazy. I know we just met. But Charlie and I have this big empty house that used to feel full and now just echoes. I've been drowning trying to figure out how to be both parents to him. And I've been so focused on what we've lost that I forgot we might still have something to give. You need a home. We need... He paused, searching for words. We need to remember how to be a family again. Maybe we could help each other. You don't know anything about me, Lily whispered, and Emma could hear the fear beneath the words. The fear of hoping. I know enough, David said. I know you're kind. I know you're brave. I know you've been through hell and you're still standing. And I know that my son hasn't smiled this much since before his mother died. He looked at Charlie, who was watching both of them with wide eyes. What do you think, buddy? Should we ask Lily to come home with us? Charlie nodded so enthusiastically that his juice almost spilled. Yes, you can have the room with the purple walls. Mommy painted it, but we never used it. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and Emma felt her own vision blur. But the caseworker, the system, it's not that simple. I'll call my lawyer right now, David said, pulling out his phone. We'll start the process. Emergency placement, then fostering, then adoption if you want. It won't be easy and it won't be quick, but I promise you, his voice cracked with emotion, I promise you we won't give up. You won't be another temporary placement. You'll be our daughter, our family. The tears spilled over then, running down Lily's cheeks as she tried to process what was happening. Why? She asked, her voice breaking. Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. David reached across the table and took her hand, and Emma saw that he was crying too. Because 8 months ago, I learned that life is fragile and precious and can change in an instant. I learned that love is the only thing that matters, and that family isn't just about blood, it's about choosing each other. My wife and I always wanted more children. We wanted Charlie to have siblings. We wanted our home to be full of love and laughter. His voice dropped to a whisper. I can't bring her back, but I can honor her memory by doing what she would have done. She would have seen you standing there alone, and she would have made room. She would have loved you. So that's what I'm going to do. Charlie, perhaps not fully understanding but sensing the moment's importance, reached over and patted Lily's other hand. "Don't cry," he said. "We're nice. We have a dog too. His name is Biscuit." That broke the tension, and Lily laughed through her tears, a sound of pure disbelief and dawning joy. "You have a dog." "The goodest boy," David confirmed, smiling, "though he'll probably steal your socks." "He has a thing for socks." Emma couldn't help herself. She walked over to their table, her own eyes wet. "Your caseworker just called," she said softly. "Said she's running another hour late. Asked if you could wait." Lily looked up at her, then at David and Charlie, then back at Emma. "Yeah," she said, her voice stronger now. "I can wait. I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be." 3 months later, Emma was wiping down that same booth when she saw them come through the door. David, Charlie and Lily, moving together with the comfortable synchronicity of people who belong to each other. Lily was laughing at something Charlie said, her crutches forgotten in the easy joy of the moment. David had his hand on her shoulder, protective and proud. They slid into their usual booth. It had become their usual booth. And Emma walked over with a smile. "The usual?" "Actually," David said, glancing at Lily with barely contained excitement, "we're celebrating today. The judge approved the adoption. It's official." Lily held up her hand, showing Emma a silver ring with a small purple stone. "It was his wife's," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "He gave it to me this morning. Said every daughter deserves something special on her adoption day." Emma's eyes filled with tears. For what felt like the 100th time since that first morning. "Pancakes all around?" she managed to ask. "Pancakes all around," David confirmed. "Extra whipped cream, and maybe some pie too. We've got a lot to celebrate." As Emma walked away to place their order, she glanced back at the booth. Charlie was showing Lily another drawing, this one clearly depicting their family. A man, a boy, a girl with crutches, and what she assumed was the sock-stealing dog. David had his arms around both of them, and they were all laughing about something. She thought about that morning 3 months ago, when a lonely girl had asked a simple question and received an answer that changed her life. "Can I sit here?" And David hadn't just said yes to sharing a booth. He'd said yes to sharing a life, a home, a family. Sometimes, Emma thought, the most extraordinary acts of love begin with the simplest words. Sometimes all it takes is someone brave enough to ask, and someone kind enough to make room. Sometimes the family we choose becomes the family that saves us. And sometimes, in a crowded diner on an ordinary morning, miracles happen one pancake at a time.